I always spend so much time outside, and I didn't realize that, and I didn't realize how important it is for me until I moved into New York City when everything is concrete and it's just busy, you know. So that's kind of my escape to the nature and back to my roots.
I think a lot of Americans wouldn't be very comfortable with public nudity. Have you ever got in trouble for running around naked in the forest or whatever?
A couple times, yeah. But people are usually like, you know, they just laugh and they think it's hilarious, so it's fine. I had this great story when I was crawled into this huge trunk and people keep walking and there's a camera on a tripod and they're like, oh, there's a camera, where's the person? And then they bend down and see me in the trunk and I'm like, hi, this is this cool project. That always helps. So, yeah.
Recently you had a show entitled Young American. Mm-hmm. What was the thinking behind that show? That collection?
That is a whole new different body of work that I've been actually working on for a couple of years, but it all came together about a year ago. The name Young American came from the curator Thomas Beachdale. We kind of, you know, discussed my work and we went through my archives of photographs when I was photographing people around New York City for different projects, from editorials to, you know, other projects. And he started to pick all these close-up shot portraits when most of them are shot on my analog little Yashica that I really love. And there was certain connection, and it ended up being a project that is very important for me in a way. And for me, the most important realization in this whole thing was at the opening, because, you know, shooting self-portraiture, whenever there was an opening, it was just me in front of the photo, me in the photo, and that's kind of it, right? But with this show, so many people came who were in the photographs, and it was such a beautiful energy in the crowd, and they were all so excited to see their picture on the wall and in the projection, because we projected them really large on a wall, so they're like these huge faces with their huge eyes that just stare at you. And the edit was really based on the something that's in the eyes, certain softness or certain something. I don't really know what to call it, but, you know, there's almost like a really raw human feeling. And people were so excited. And so it was just so precious to experience the connection with such a big crowd of people, and realizing that I have so many friends. I came to the United States and didn't know a single person, and all of a sudden there were 300 portraits and over 300 people came to the show. It was really sweet to realize that I do belong.
Many of the people you photographed in Young American are very distinctive looking. What were you looking for in your subjects?
See, it's all people that certain way inspire me. New York City is a great place for this. I, you know, sit on a subway and I see 5-6 people that I'm like, oh my God, I want to photograph them. So it's a never-ending inspiration of people around here. And whenever I see somebody who just strikes me in a way or inspires me, I ask them if they would, you know, photograph with me and if I can take their portrait.
But to some degree, I think your work also explores issues of identity, sexuality, gender. Would that be easier to do here than in the Czech Republic, or more interesting here, or more pertinent here?
I haven't been back home for more than 7 years, so I don't really know how things change there, and I'm really eager to explore that. And I'm going home for Christmas. That's going to be 8 years since I haven't been home, so I'm really excited, bring my cameras, and I can tell you that all the big next projects are happening partially in Czech as well. And I'm really excited to explore the connection and, you know, the difference or the sameness between Czech and America through identity, through self-portraiture, through portraits of other people, and all of that.
New York is one of the most competitive places on the planet. How hard has it been for you to establish yourself here?
It is very competitive at the same time, because it's not, you know, such a small market or small, you know, pond, what we say in Czech. There is way more opportunities. Plus, the all-over atmosphere here is supportive. You know, artists are very often supportive of each other in a really significant way, which I think is great and creates more opportunity for you. My past experience 7-8 years ago in Czech, it was that it always was competitive as well. Plus, there's not that many opportunities, so it's kind of more difficult, and people just put themselves down, which I hate that kind of atmosphere. Here, I didn't experience that, which I love about New York, you know. So it has pros and cons, and I just think one has to be dedicated and, you know, and just keep going.
Your career seems to be really gathering momentum. You've been in lots of prestigious news outlets. There's a documentary being made about you, and you have this book coming out of Young American. Is this an exciting time for you?
Extremely. I can't wait. Yeah, I'm very excited for the book. It's going to be my first monograph, which is really great. And the documentary is just very precious because, you know, Maruška Dvořáková captured my first solo show, which my parents were not able to be here for that because they're in Czech. So my first thought when we started this was like, oh, my mom will see how the whole thing came together. And finally I can show her what I'm doing here in New York because, you know, she doesn't really have idea. She's not on social media. And, you know, it's hard to really show how hard and challenging and exciting at the same time it is to pull together a solo show in New York City. So I was really excited about that. And then Maruška got to capture the first book and how we will put that whole thing together. And then she's going to record how I return home, which is really precious as well.
If everything goes according to plan, where would you like to see your life and your career in, say, 10 years from now?
Well, I would love to do shows all over the world so I can travel, you know, with the shows and just be able to do what I like to do and work on more books, more shows, and be able to be between Czech and New York and make money with all of that.
Marie Tomanová, the photographer's book Young American, is due out in the first months of 2019, and her exhibition of the same title will come to Prague's Pragovka Gallery later in the year. And I'm afraid that's all we have time for today. If you have any comments about the program, then please send them to us. You can contact us by email at english@radio.cz or on Facebook and Twitter. But that's all for now from me, Ruth Fraňková. Thank you very much for joining us, and goodbye.
Radio Prague, coming to you on the World Radio Network, on the web at WRN.org.
For a list of all the programmes available on the World Radio Network, have a look at our broadcast schedules at WRN.org. You'll be able to browse our day-to-day schedules and also get to know more about our content partners. Point your browser to WRN.org, your window on the world. from Bangkok to
Global Community Radio Channel 1, KAKU-LP Kahilui, KBOG-LP Bandon, KFZR-LP Fraser Park, KIEZ-LP Monroe, KLQS-LP Agua Dulce, KPDO Pescadero, Sunflower State Radio Extra Marysville, WLRI-LP Gap, WMUU-LP Madison, WRAQ-LP Angelica, WXDR-LP New Orleans, WXIR-LP Rochester.
From Feature Story News in London, I'm Ollie Barrett. UK Prime Minister Theresa May is touring Europe for talks aimed at saving the Brexit deal she struck with Brussels. A vote on the deal in the UK's Parliament, scheduled for Tuesday, was delayed, with Mrs May facing a heavy defeat. She now hopes to secure concessions from European leaders, particularly around the Northern Ireland border backstop. The UK is due to leave the EU in March next year, but the terms of its exit need to be voted on by British lawmakers. Sammy Wilson is Brexit spokesman for the DUP of Northern Ireland, which props up Mrs May's government at Westminster. He says her talks in Europe are futile.
Assurances which we don't even know who would have to deliver on them, because there might be a different government, might be different negotiators in the EU. If the Prime Minister thinks coming back with some of these kind of weak assurances is going to change our minds or the minds of many people within our own party or in the opposition, then she's deluded.
Early results suggest mixed fortunes for the ruling BJP party in state elections in India. It's a close contest in the central state of Madhya Pradesh, but opposition Congress leads in the previous BJP strongholds of Rajasthan and Chhattisgarh. That would be seen as a boost for the opposition ahead of 2019's general election. Russia's overtaken the UK to become the second biggest arms seller in the world. This according to a research institute. As Dan Ashby reports from FSN's Russia Bureau, Moscow is cashing in on its involvement in Syria.
The Stockholm Peace Research Institute found that Russian arms sales grew by more than 8% last year, totalling $37 billion. That means Russia is the second biggest arms seller in the world, beaten only by the US, and Russia has overtaken the UK for the first time since records began. Moscow is using the war in Syria to test out and develop new weapons, and its business relies on trading with countries often shunned by the US. Dan Ashby, Moscow.
In Australia, residents in far north Queensland are starting to pack up and leave as former tropical cyclone Owen threatens to reform into a Category 3 system. Arthur Stevens reports from Melbourne.
Cyclone Owen previously became a tropical low-pressure system as it reached far north Queensland area last week and tracked out into the Gulf of Carpentaria. The Bureau of Meteorology expects it to become a cyclone again within 24 hours as it continues its westward track. Residents from Normanton to Pormpuraaw have been warned to prepare as the low-pressure system gathers strength over the warm waters of the Gulf of Carpentaria. It's expected to slow down and turn back towards the Queensland coast and could escalate to a Category 3 cyclone if conditions remain favourable, with a crossing along the Gulf's southeastern coast most likely towards the end of the week. On Mornington Island in the southeast of the Gulf, some residents have already begun leaving as a precaution. Arthur Stevens, Melbourne.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
This is Radio Romania International. You are listening to our 1-hour broadcast in English for listeners in Western Europe. We can also be heard on the internet at www.rri.ro Channel 1. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter and other social media platforms. Our programs are also available on TuneIn and via satellite Eutelsat 16A on 11,512 MHz vertical polarization, azimuth 16 degrees east. Symbol rate 29,950 mega symbols per second. Standard DVB-S2. Modulation 8 PSK. Audio PID 510. We wish you good reception conditions.
Hello, I'm Vlad Palcu with the news bulletin. Here are the headlines. The European Parliament on Tuesday is voting a new resolution calling for the admission of Romania and Bulgaria into the Schengen area. British Prime Minister Theresa May has postponed the vote in the House of Commons on the Brexit agreement with the European Union. And Minister Delegate for European Affairs, George Chamba, is attending the General Affairs Council meeting in Brussels. The European Parliament on Tuesday is voting a new resolution calling for the admission of Romania and Bulgaria into the Schengen area following Monday's talks. The European Union Council is expected to take a final decision. At present, both Romania and Bulgaria are partially enforcing the Schengen acquis, with controls being carried out on their external borders. The European Parliament has greenlit the two countries' Schengen accession in 2011 and has repeatedly confirmed its decision. This decision has been postponed on multiple occasions due to opposition concerning the lack of reforms in the field of the judiciary. Romanian President Klaus Iohannis on Thursday and Friday is attending the European Council meeting in Brussels and the expanded format Euro Summit. According to the presidency, the agenda of the European Council includes budget negotiations post-2020, the internal market of the Union, migration management, fighting climate change, and combating racism and xenophobia. Speaking on the future EU budget, the Romanian president will plead for a speedy passing of the bill, specifying that Romania, as future presidency holder in the first half of next year, will act to get significant progress in negotiating, admitting that the vote would fail at this moment. In her Parliament address, Theresa May said the House of Commons no longer has a majority to support the backstop mechanism for Northern Ireland stipulated in the Brexit agreement. Previously, the EU Court of Justice decided that the UK is free to unilaterally withdraw its notification of leaving the EU. In early October, the Scottish Supreme Court announced it filed a motion with the EU Court to have issued a preliminary decision on the UK's possibility of revoking its decision to leave the community bloc. Full Brexit is scheduled for March 29th, 2019. Romania's Minister Delegate for European Affairs, George Chamba, on Tuesday is attending the General Affairs Council meeting in Brussels. The agenda for talks includes the multi-annual financial framework, the presentation of the joint agenda of the Romania, Finland, Croatia trio at the helm of the European Council over January 1st, 2019, June 30th, 2020, as well as preparations for the European Council meeting of December 13th and the 14th, which will focus on the multi-annual financial framework for the 2021-2027 period, the single market, foreign policy and economic and monetary union. The Romanian women's handball team will play Spain on Tuesday and Hungary on Wednesday in the 2018 European Championship group phase. To secure qualification from one of the top two positions in the group tables, Romania needs to win against Spain and Hungary. On Sunday, Romania lost to the Netherlands 29-24 in the first group fixture. Its first defeat after the wins against the Czech Republic, Germany and Norway. And now to end the news on Radio Romania International, let's have another look at the main stories. The European Parliament on Tuesday is voting a new resolution calling for the admission of Romania and Bulgaria into the Schengen area. British Prime Minister Theresa May has postponed the vote in the House of Commons on the Brexit agreement with the European Union. And Minister Delegate for European Affairs, George Chamba, is attending the General Affairs Council meeting in Brussels.
The International Anti-Corruption Day was marked on December the 9th. Corruption, alongside other scourges like terrorism, drug trafficking and organized crime, are systematically eroding the state. I'm Eugen Nasta with more on this in a report by Mihai Pelin. Every year on the 9th of December, United Nations member states mark the International Anti-Corruption Day, which was established in 2003 to draw attention to the fact that this scourge undermines the development of countries and the lives of its citizen. No country, region or community is immune to corruption, which can affect education, healthcare, justice, democracy, prosperity and development. Combating this phenomenon is therefore a global concern, as it can be found both in rich and poor countries, contributing to instability and poverty and being a dominant factor that causes fragile states to fail. Governments, the private sector, non-governmental organizations, the media and citizens from around the world are joining forces to fight corruption. Romania, both prior to its accession and as a member of the European Union, has made decisive steps towards combating this scourge by creating specialized institutions compatible with similar European bodies and a suitable legislative framework. On International Anti-Corruption Day, Romania's President Klaus Iohannis said he supported the fight against corruption and that this phenomenon, which eroded democracy and kept millions of people in poverty, should be firmly rejected. Klaus Iohannis.
Corupția înseamnă lipsa autostrăzilor, spitale insalubre, școli fără condiții.
Corruption means lack of motorways, insalubrious hospitals, schools without proper conditions, and a congested administrative system. Romania will not be able to advance to its full potential until we defeat this scourge. I support the continuation of the fight against corruption for a healthy Romania, and I support all magistrates who wage this battle with courage every day. Honesty and integrity must be reinstated at all levels of society. It's in our power to do so. An emphatic no to corruption should not be just a slogan, but a way of living. Romania's Prosecutor General Augustin Lazar also sent a message saying investigations would continue into the crimes committed in the areas facing a major risk of systemic corruption, as well as into small-scale corruption, in order to discourage and prevent its spread to priority domains.